because I want to say this because to make you feel good, of course, but I'm so touched to read when you read your book because the first book changed literally my life, and of course you have heard that thousands of times, but I followed it up and changed the whole routine of my life and now help others. But the second book is also almost like a homecoming again with, it's like a universal truth that you write, and that is so beautiful. So
Wow,
very, 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 very beautiful.
thank you. I'm so glad because, I'll be honest with you. It's very, when before I wrote my first book, of course, I was nervous as to how is it going to do. But I was so blown away as to how well received it is. So when you write a second book, you kind of think, oh, like people have this expectation, and can I meet their expectation? I was never an author before. And then I just keep remembering Wayne's words to me, just write from the heart, just write from the heart, which is
Yeah.
what I did. So I was really honest and raw even in the second book, and so it means a lot to me that you say that it touched you as well.
Well, I'll be honest with you too, because I thought the same as you thought. I thought to myself, how can she ever be able to write another book that makes such an impact? And honestly thought that because it's such a intense experience and very unusual, of course, and hopefully nobody, not a lot of people have to go through that. But at the same time, now you come with all those truths and it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So, well, maybe it's good then. So, initially, I'd like to know and share with the public what made you decide to start writing a second book, and how did you experience the process of writing for the second time? Because the first time was, of course, mainly done as a therapeutic, in a therapeutic way.
Yes. So for the second book, what happened was that it became more like a journal of the journey after the second book came out and was launched. And after when the book came out, and I really was feeling that I the hope was to heal people's hearts, to tell them this is what is possible. And what started happening though, of course, people wrote to me and gave me very positive feedback, which is what really kept me going. But even in that positive feedback, there were a lot of questions that people were asking. They were asking that things like, yes, I understand I have to love myself, but I don't know how to. I have no idea how to love myself. Or they would say things like, but how do I deal with pain? How do I deal with the fear? How do I deal with the fear of the fear? And how do I deal with loss and suffering and so on? So I was still getting so many of those questions, and I was realizing more and more as I traveled a journey off the life of this first book, is because I was being invited to speak on stage, on TV, whatever. I was realizing that we live in a very painful world, and I was realizing that even though I thought this is it, what I've written, this is my story, even though I thought that, I was realizing people wanted more. So as I was answering their questions via email, I was answering it in Q&A on stage. I realized that these same questions were coming up over and over again, and so I needed to write them down. And that was the start of the second book. Like, it started with answering people's questions, and that was really starting to give me the content. And in the beginning, I even asked Hay House so they asked me, they said to me, we feel you have a second book in you. They approached me, and I said, yes, I can see that. I think so too, because they could see how I was still able to talk about it at their events and do Q&A and so on. So Wayne was saying, you have at least 7 books in you. This is what Wayne said. So then I asked Hay House, can my second book be a Q&A? And they said, no, that format is not really good. So I said, okay, then let me make it realistic of my journey, actual stories of people asking me these questions, asking it to me on a radio interview, asking it to me when I'm standing on stage, or writing me the letter, or when I bump into them. So I did it that way.
Very, very cool. And yeah, so Hay House or proposed that or initiated that. But I recall like 2 years back we were sitting and you were planning a book then. So how did the process go, and was it because of the pressure that you delayed that, or and how did you feel about writing that second book compared to the first one?
So the second book was probably a little harder than the first one, because the first one was like a release, like it was really, really therapeutic. It was like I was writing about something that in a way I felt I needed to sort out and clear in my own head. The second book was, I don't even know if it was harder, if that's the right word, but it was more like a journal. So I was writing it about this journey in this second part of my life after the NDE. So it was after the NDE, it was after the book published, and it's really my journey since the book has been published, and how I have integrated what I myself have learned, and how I share it with other people, and how I teach it to other people, and I go deeper into the teachings of it. And what is, maybe I could say a little more, probably what's a little more difficult, but again, difficult is probably the wrong word, is that in the first book, I'm just releasing information that's already here. In the second book, I am writing and living it at the same time.
Yeah.
And so what was going on is, the reason even for the delay of the release was that I was traveling so much, like even when you met me in Maui, I was traveling, and we were straddling two continents. We were living in Hong Kong. My events were in the US. And suddenly, in the midst of it all, what happened is that we had made a decision. So before that, we'd made a decision we were going to leave our home in Hong Kong. So we packed up. We were ready to leave our home. We'd completely packed up. We moved our stuff to the US. We went back to Hong Kong to finish up a few things. And my mom, she had a fall in India. She had a fall and she broke her hip. So immediately I flew to India to be with her, because she was in the hospital. She was having surgery, and she was very, very scared, and she couldn't deal with it. And so she wanted both my brother and me with her, because she even thought for a moment that she wasn't going to make it. And the doctors were saying, because of her age, even the surgery is risky. So I was there by her side. And it was at that time that I realized that spending time with my mom was actually more important than the book. I realized, again, it sort of hit me, okay, what's important to me? At the end of the day, what's important to me? Yeah. So I started to spend more time with her. So I was flying to do events in America from India, which is a long way. And I was going to Europe, and I was going to England, but I was going back and forth. And for a little while, I made my mom's home in India my base. Prior to that, it was Hong Kong, but all my stuff was in a warehouse in America, in Los Angeles. So it was really challenging. I just couldn't focus on continuing my book at that time. So I just had to put it on pause, completely put it on pause. When I came out of that whole phase, we moved to America, we found a home, we settled down, and then I started writing about that last year of my life, about certain things I went through. And yes, so that's really the process.
People, of course, don't realize that authors also have a life. And that's, of course, so important to realize. Well, what I said before, what I truly, truly love, beside of all the stories that you share, is that you make those chapters with myths. Initially, I thought, that's interesting. I have chapters only with myths. And of course, to learn about possible truths and about tips and exercises and questions to ask yourself, which I truly, truly love, because that helps you really begin to feel And what I, of course, teach with people with HeartMath, that feeling is so important instead of always the thinking, that you truly feel. So I have such a sense that when people read the book, like myself, that they truly feel what you put down on paper. So that's very, very cool. And thank you for sharing the personal story, because yeah, it's of course a beautiful choice to be there with your mom.
Yeah, thank you.
Um,
Yes.
so you write in the beginning of your book that you learned upon death that all that matters in life is to love, to laugh, and to shine our light brightly. So we both know that we are deeply connected with one another, and at the most fundamental level. How do you think that we can manage to keep loving and laughing and shining our light brightly while we feel the suffering of millions of other people around the world?
So that's the biggest dichotomy and the biggest challenge. And the way I explained it, the way I usually try and explain it in my workshops and all, is is that when if we go into the suffering with the person, if we start to try and if we feel guilty because they're suffering and my life is good, what we're doing is that we are actually not bringing healing into the world. So, so let me see how I can best explain it. If you imagine that you are a light bulb, let's say, the brighter you shine, the more you illuminate the room, including the people who are lost and who are in darkness. The only way that you can bring light to the ones who are lost because it's too dark is by you shining brighter, not by you dimming your own bulb. You don't even have to do anything. Your very presence is all that matters. So if I just bring my presence into the world, it needs to be a presence that is full of love, full of joy, full of upliftment, because the person you take out into the world is the person you are inside. But if you yourself feel stressed because of all the fears in the world, because of all the wars, the poverty, the terrorism, if you feel fear inside all the time, if you feel anger all the time, that is the person you're taking out into the world. And so what you're doing is you are actually adding to the energy that's already out there, but you're trying to change it. But how are you trying to change it? By going out there and being angry at everything that's happening.
Yeah.
And the way I try and explain that is that in order to take revenge with what you don't like, when you take revenge, you have to become what you are taking revenge against. That's the only way to take revenge, is to do to them what they've done to you. So you are becoming what it is that what you are protesting against. The only way to actually change things is to be, as Gandhi said, be the change and take that out into the world. I also explain to people that just like the absence of uh, like what is darkness? Darkness is the absence of light. When there's no light, you have darkness is present when there's no light. The same with fear. What is fear? Fear is not a substance in itself. Fear is the absence of love.
Yeah.
And so I tell people that that the only way to fill the world with love is to start by filling yourself with love. Because the brighter you can shine with your love, you take that brightness with you and you illuminate other people just by your very presence. The reason why we have starving people in one part of the world and really well-fed people in another part of the world, all these imbalances, the reason why we have wars and we spend so much money on the military and so on, is all driven by fear. It's all driven by fear. And if we get sucked into the fear and fight it with more fear, we're not getting rid of the problem. The only way that we can eliminate it is by reaching deeper for more love. That's the only way.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And you know me by now a bit, and I have the same attitude. Sometimes people still have trouble recognizing it, and they think it's some kind of fake attitude. You
Yeah, but
probably
it's
know.
yeah, and it's not and it's not about just affirmations or anything like that. It's nothing. It's not about fake it till you make it. It's nothing. It's truly, truly seeing that, oh my gosh, this poor person or this person who has given their life for uh, in the name of terrorism, and they have been destroyed or destructed. These people, they are parts of me, and they are a message to me that, wow, look how much fear and darkness exists in this world. My job is not to become fearful because of it. My job is to expand the love. That's my message when I see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so nice that you mentioned the light, because I can so much resonate to that, because often when I coach people, I often say, how often when you come home and it's really dark in the hallway, you open the door, that you try to push away the darkness to see something where you start walking. And then people look at me like I'm crazy. And I say, that's never what we don't do that. We know that even if we flick a little lighter, that we
Yeah.
see a little light, like you explained in the warehouse, that's enough. And then you say, where is the darkness? And the darkness cannot withstand the light, of course. But often when we have on an emotional level issues, we always tend to go to the darkness to push it away, or to make sure we don't feel it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. And
So yeah. No, so go ahead, you want it.
and I was just going to say, and people ask me questions like, how can we love those who come and, like what we call terrorists? But my point is that even those people, what is terrorist? What is the word terror? Terror is fear. It's fear magnified. And those people are doing what they do because they're living in this state of fear, and they think they're doing good. They think that the people who they are harming are the ones to be feared.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes, so right. I was asking about to ask a question, because you talk about the belief, or yeah, that we most people think that we're separate from one another, which is the major cause of injustice and crime and even like wars.
yeah.
So you said, how have we as a society, with our prejudices and roadblocks, our heavy expectations and assumptions, help create these models? And
Mhm.
then how can we choose like a different approach towards the others who do harm? I do see that people, they feel, but how can we as a general public, how can we choose a different approach to those?
What we need to do, the problem is, as a society, we believe that we need to put away our criminals behind bars. And we believe that as long as they're put away, we're safe. What we don't realize is that the more criminals there are behind bars, the more jails we have to build, the more prisons we have to build. It's a message to us that there's something fundamentally wrong within our society, within our culture. There is a cancer within the whole. It's not an individual problem. It's a problem within the whole. How are we, how are we letting those people down? Why have they chosen that life? Nobody becomes born into this world and say, I'm going to be a criminal and end up in jail. They didn't choose that. How have we as a society not supported them, not given them the equal opportunities that we have, not given them our support, not shown them love? And so they have been driven to make choices that have caused them to live this life, which then causes them to go into this. Because we have to look at the patterns, and it's no coincidence that most of the people behind bars are male, and most of them are people that are colored,
Yeah.
mostly black, African Americans. That's no coincidence. They are the ones who were at one time the slaves in America. So what has the country as a whole, society as a whole, done to fail them? We have to look at it as a bigger problem and not just putting a few people behind bars. Because if you imagine, and I can imagine this because I know I was discriminated as a child because I lived in a different community and I was the outsider. But if you imagine a lifetime of being discriminated against, of people being suspicious of you even when you're doing good, it makes you very resentful and angry and fearful inside. It makes you wonder why people are looking at you a certain way. When people mistreat you, you don't know if that person is just an ignorant person or whether it's because of my color and whether they're looking down on me. And very often, people who come from the more privileged, shall we say, the more privileged classes or races, they don't see that. They don't see that. They don't see what the series of events and fears and things that led up to the point to cause this person to have that anger and that outrage, to cause them to react the way they did, that causes them to get into trouble.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that, because I see also that often these people are the most sensitive people in the society. I'm the youngest of three brothers, and my middle brother got himself into trouble in the course of his life. Same upbringing, same nest where we came from, and he ended up being addicted to hard drugs, and in the end he took his own life, with that. And so going through that, that generated so much compassion inside of me for others, that it's not just somebody out there who is a bad person, and that's very hard often for people to see.
Yes, so I actually think that instead of locking people up, because what happens in prisons, when I hear horror stories of what happens in prisons, is that people, even men, they rape each other, they beat each other up, they kill people. I think prisons should be made into a place where people actually get an opportunity to reform, to see life differently, to learn more about the world and themselves and spirituality, and to get an opportunity to integrate back into life. And I think they need opportunities, because we also, there's so much, we have to look at, like a country is willing to spend billions, trillions of dollars on the military so it can go out and fight and kill, but it's not willing to spend the same amount on giving people the proper type of education and nurturing that they need to make them good, helpful citizens of the country. Yeah. And I think that's a bit, like we have our priorities all screwed up, which is hence why my book is about myths. And I just want to explain a little bit about the concept behind the book.
Yes.
Because I don't like to give people step-by-step instructions. I don't like to write what I call self-help books or things like how-to books. I don't write things like that, because the reason is because in a way I feel you don't need help. You're perfect as you are. That's kind of where I like to come from. You don't need help. You're perfect. You don't need me to tell you how to do things. I'm no better than you. Who am I to give you instructions? But the book is like more an invitation to consider that, what if heaven is a state and not a place? And that's why I say, what if this is heaven? Because in my near-death experience realm, I realized that heaven is not a physical place, but it's a state. It's a different reality of things that we have access to right here and right now. It's a reality where every choice is made from a place of love instead of fear. It's a reality where we spread love instead of spreading fear. It's a reality where we recognize that the more love we have, the less fear we will have, that love is the absence of fear. It's a whole different reality, but yet it's not a separate place. It's very much a reality we can create right here. But we create it when you realize, or when we all realize, that we actually are perfect. We actually are love. We don't need to live in fear. And in our own fear, when we are fearful, we end up spreading that fear. We end up being fearful of other people. We end up seeing other people as our enemy because we are feeling fearful inside. And so we end up attacking people out of our own fear. And we can change that by realizing that we are love and filling ourselves up with love. And the more love we have, our very presence brings love to the people around us. Now, if I tell people, okay, this is how you do it, again, I'm saying, I've attained it, you haven't, so I'm going to teach you. But I don't feel that's the case. I feel we're all in it together. So instead of a how-to book, the reason why it's myths and how our cultures prevent us from living heaven on earth is because the way I feel is we all are love. But my question is, what is preventing you from realizing it? Yeah. Rather than a how to get somewhere, it's like you are already there. You are already in heaven. You are already everything you're trying to attain. But what is preventing you from seeing it and realizing it? And that's what I want to shine my light on. Yeah. And those things are the myths. Those are the things that's preventing you from realizing who you truly are. Yeah. Yeah. That's my approach to this book.
Thank you for explaining that. And it's so, I think 2 years ago already, I was talking to you about the fact that I started to write a book, and we talked about it a little bit, but I stopped writing for now because I wanted to be more in touch with the audience. And it's basically about the same, because I'm not sure if that's going to be the title, but it's like the stuff that we believe. And that's very, very similar actually as what you've been writing, because it's just what we believe is the truth that shapes how we live our lives, of course. And I of course, you see so much, and we both see that we are so deeply connected with one another. So instead of lecturing you, I could put an arm around you and say, we're basically in the same boat. And,
exactly.
And I always say we have two hands, we've been created with two hands. And if you give somebody a hand and I give somebody a hand with both hands, then the circle, we have like 8 billion people who give each other a hand. We're all connected. We only need two hands for that.
Exactly. And do you know, when you truly realize this, when you truly realize that we are all in it together, just your very presence is enough. And other people feel it from you. Yeah. They just feel it because we're connected.
Yeah. Well, you already touched and maybe already answered the question that I had, because you write about this also in the book, or in the chapter, or the myth, I'm okay, I'm not okay, you're not okay. That's exactly what you're writing about your friend, about going for some more healing, etc. So I mention this because I've been now, like, for 4 years or so, more in the spiritual realm and interviewing people all over the world, and especially from a lot of people who are having influence, like having an authority. It's not so easy always for all those that read the books about the juices and about this and about that, and if your friend tells you that, you could doubt. But if you have like a guru who says one thing and the other guru says another thing, and they all have the best intentions, of course, the doubt, and that's, of course, you're in the midst of that, and you come with such a pure message. How can people more easily deal with that?
Yeah, that, you see, I always fell for that. I had people constantly telling me things that I needed to do this or be this or do more of that, and this is why I'm sick and this is how I need to get well. And people still do it with me, that, you need to eat more of this, you need to juice, you need to do that constantly, and you travel so much and you're getting all that radiation while you're in the plane, and so you need to do this, so all the time people are telling me things, and the thing is that some of it is helpful and some of it actually just drains you. And so what I like to tell people all the time is that when you're self-aware, you listen to your body. What I believe we have to learn to do is to give ourselves periods of time where we don't take any information from the outside world, where we can really tune in to who we are inside and tune into what our bodies want, what our minds want, what our spirit wants, what is our soul craving for right now. And for me, I tune in by either spending time in nature or by listening to music, but I have to make a commitment that I'm not going to go on the internet and listen to information. I'm not going to go and ask people, because I tell people that the best authority for you is yourself. It's your own heart. And there's a part of you that's connected to the universe, and it's receiving information. And it's receiving information that is unique to you. It's unique for you to follow your life and your passion. Because if I had to figure it out, I wouldn't be on the path I am today. I mean, it came to me from the universe. Wayne linked with me. It was universal guidance. The book came out, everything. It happened to me with a huge help from the universe. It wasn't me and my mind physically going and pursuing it. So in the same way, we need to allow the universe to work through us, but we fill ourselves up with information from the outside world. We just fill ourselves up with information on the internet and contradictory information, and then we become more confused. Then we're in our mind, and when we're confused, we ask more people for more information, and then we become even more confused. And then not only are we totally confused, but there is no room for our own inner guidance to communicate with us, because our mind is just so full and congealed. And so we don't realize that now we're blocking our own internal guidance from talking to us. So this is why I make it really simple. I tell people the most important guide, the most important person who knows your truth is you. It's not anyone. Don't give your power away to anybody, not your doctors, not your healers, not your gurus, not me, not anybody. Your power is within. And to access that power, we have to go on an information fast, which is to stop taking in external information. And then when we do that, we get guidance as to where to go, what to do. And then when we are following our guidance, then even from the external information, the right book, the right person, the right teacher will come to us at the right time. So it's not about chasing them. It's about going inward and allowing the information to come to us.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I've experienced it now in the last year so often, that it's so ingrained in us that we have to do something to get somewhere. And
Yes.
I screen the film, The Power of the Heart, a lot. And I combine that with the HeartMath teachings. And Maya Angelou in that film says, if you don't know what to do nothing. She says, don't fill your time with trivia, she says. And it's really beautiful, and it always rings in with me because it's so important that we just be our own guide, and that the universe, I always explain it like, you say coming through you, and I often feel it's like roaring through me.
Yes.
And that's so sometimes too simple for people to get.
Yeah, and they don't realize that whatever we want to call it, the universe, the collective energy, the consciousness, God, whatever we want to call it, our guardian angels, it's trying to communicate with us all the time. Yeah. It's us, it's our mind that gets in the way. We block it out, we doubt it, we question it, and then we give our power to some teacher and guru and somebody. We go chasing and pursuing, and then we try to figure out how to chase our business, and we do marketing, and all of this stuff. But no, I just say, be who you are, be authentic, and let it all come to you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and often, sorry?
Yeah. I was just going to say, the more authentic you are, then what comes to you is what is truly yours.
Yeah, that's so true. And often to help myself sometimes in those moments where I feel a little off, I pretend see myself sitting on a bench when I'm 80 or so, somewhere on on the deck of my house and overlooking the valley here and think, okay, looking back at my life, is this really how I wanted to have lived my life? Because the little book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, made a lot of impact on me. Because it's good to be present every day and think, is how I truly want to live?
Yeah, that's so important. That is
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
it is.
Well, I had another question. I'll skip that because also I want to respect the time. But a last question is that in your book, you share many myths related to healthcare, positivity, religion, our egos, and the relationship between women and men. And you provide possible truths and exercises on a very personal level. If you were responsible for healthcare and education in the United States, what would be the first change you would make? Because we are talking now as a beautiful concept. So what what would it be that we can truly make an action and a difference on?
Oh gosh, so many things. If it was education, I would want little children to know from the time that they're very, very young how powerful they are, how amazing they are. I would want them to know that they are all connected, that every single other child in their class, in their school, are their brothers and sisters. They don't need to compete with them to get ahead with them. They need to work together and collaborate. I would want them to know that. I would make it compulsory in education to make children aware, to become aware of what it feels like to be a victim of anything, and anything from bullying. Like, what does it feel like to be somebody who stands out, who's different? What does it feel like to be somebody who's poor? What does it feel like to be somebody who's in a wheelchair, who can't walk? I would make that compulsory as part of the education system, to give the kids, especially the older kids, exercises where for 1 week they actually have to experience being poor or being in a wheelchair or being blind or something, to experience it and to feel the challenges they would feel going through that, or to be someone who is an ethnic minority that is looked down upon, to feel it for a whole week, to have a firsthand experience of what it feels like for people to look at them differently, to mistrust them. How does it make them feel emotionally? And if you have a whole generation of kids who learn these things, who learn what it feels like, the world would change, because they would make sure that they make the world a better place and an easier place for all these people. That's what I would do in education. That's number one. In healthcare, I would change hospitals completely. I believe that fear actually breaks down our immune system and makes us more susceptible to illness. But where do we see fear all the time? In hospitals. I hated hospitals because I feared them. Hospitals need to be a place where patients feel nurtured, where they feel safe, where they feel that they're being cared for in a loving and kind way. The kinds of questions also that people like doctors, oncologists need to ask their patient when their patients are diagnosed with things like cancer. They need to ask them questions like, have you experienced a trauma recently? Do you have people in your life who love you and who you love? Is there anything in your life that you're passionate about? Are you following your dreams? Are you following your passions? And really get them thinking about questions like this, because 9 times out of 10, an illness is actually a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call that you're not living the life that you're supposed to be living. You're not living the life that you were born to live, that you were here to express. You're not being the light that you came here to express yourself to be. And we're missing that completely in medicine. We spend billions, trillions of dollars on just pharma and drugs alone, and we're completely missing the real point of why we get ill in the first place. So those are the things I would change, and I'm very passionate about both of those things.
Yeah. So you probably love the film Patch Adams.
Yes, I do. I think
Me too.
there's on the
It can
right.
even make me cry when I see some of those scenes, and it's very beautiful. And what we do, by the way, with HeartMath, and I don't know if you're aware of that, that I often teach kids where we use an inner weather station to acknowledge the emotions that they feel, and we make them. It's like sunny or being like cloudy or like a rainstorm, and that they don't even know. They know they have emotions. They can be sad or happy, joyful or angry, but they don't even know what they feel. So we make them aware of what they feel, and that's already a start.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, love that. I
So,
love, yeah.
do you have ever thought about having plans to create more in awareness in organizations like healthcare or correctional facilities, or do you feel that you can inspire individuals more effectively?
I would like to, I have definitely thought about speaking more to people in healthcare, in education, and definitely this is why I have hired a publicist, is to help me achieve something that I can't do on my own. And that is really the reason, is because my aim is not, put it this way, and I don't do it for the money, but nothing would make me happier than to see real changes happening because of something I've said. And I would love that. That would really give me a thrill to see something changed in education, in the or in the prison system, or in healthcare, in either of these three, any of these three areas. It would really give me such a thrill to see that.
Yeah.
To see something changed because somebody was moved by something that I said.
And all the best with your mom,
Thank you.
and a big hug from me.
Thanks, and a big hug from me to you. Really, it's such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.